Another year passes, and what's new about your home? I mean, maybe you did change that stinky carpet, or you finally got around to insulating the attic. You might even have invested in some bifold doors. Or maybe you built one of these. It's that time again. Time to seek out the Royal Institute of British Architects House of the Year.
That, of course, isn't structural glass.
Yes, it is. The judges have looked at hundreds of entries from the length and breadth of Britain to make up a long list for the 2018 prize that'll knock your socks off. Standing here is quite a monumental thing. From homes that are bespoke and finely crafted. Yes, that's a door. It's like the Crystal Maze. To houses that are thrustingly ambitious. You were egging them on then.
Absolutely.
The houses we profile will be cut down to a short list of just 7 before we find out in the final programme which is House of the Year 2018. And same as usual, you get to come along for a jolly good nosy. No questions asked. Of the long-listed houses we're looking at, I've taken it upon myself to separate them into 4 categories. Houses with a past, extreme homes, and houses built with interesting materials. And this time, houses that dare to be different. In this programme, we've got a group of houses that take a very clear stance about where they are, flexing and responding to their surroundings. Some answer that calling sympathetically, arriving with a polite nod and a welcome gift for the neighbours. Others dare to be different. They're not afraid to shake things up a bit, cause a kerfuffle, startle next door's cat. Helping me to look around our group of homes that dare to be different will be design expert and writer Michelle Gunderhin.
What a triumphal entrance to your home, isn't it?
And architect Damien Burrows.
Oh, nice.
There we go.
Nice.
Traditionally, we think of confrontation as being anathema to the British character. We don't like to make a fuss. But is that really true? See, from Boudicca to Charles Darwin, Emmeline Pankhurst, Johnny Rotten, we have a long tradition of rebellion against the status quo. But honestly, chaps, that doesn't mean to say we have to be rude about it. Our first rebellious house is in Hackney in East London, where among the genteel Victorian villas, a grey slab has landed on what was formerly a rundown old workshop. It's home to Jess, an artist and owner of Finks, the neighbourhood cafe. I've just seen your house next door, yeah?
Yes.
Bolted on.
Yes, I never leave this corner.
Do people come in and tell you what they think of the
They
house?
do, yes, for good or for bad. Sometimes I get a kind of, "Is that you next door? I love it," you know, from the kind of architecty types. And one day someone came in and said, "That is the ugliest building in Hackney," which was actually a bit of a highlight.
Jess's controversial house is in fact 3 dwellings. The bottom 2 floors are separate flats that she rents out, while above she lives in a maisonette on the top 2 floors with a double-height living space, 2 bedrooms and 2 balconies. While the outside render looks all tough, dark and chewy, inside the house reveals a softer centre. Jess and her architect used thick lime wash to coat the concrete block walls.
I really wanted to sort of have the honesty of the blocks, but kind of soften it so it's not too much like a prison.
The lime wash and bronze handrail suggest the Mediterranean more than they do modern penitentiary. And through to the main act.
Yes.
Is it?
Come on in.
That's very clever. Big concrete frame
Yep.
with an infill of blockwork, just lime washed. The living area goes from a regular height kitchen past an enclosed balcony before opening into a lounge that's half normal height and half double height space. The freedom for Jess to take half the floor out is thanks to the concrete frame that holds up the whole building. It was poured into formwork to make a 3D grid, which could then be infilled afterwards with the blockwork.
Never let it be said that double height space is a waste of first floor footprint, because this is great. Now, do you enjoy this, or do you really think, actually, I should have put a little mezzanine
No,
in
I
there?
love it. I absolutely love it. The space over there is quite low, and actually, if it were anything else, it would feel quite cramped. As it is, that feels cosy because it's in comparison to this.
Yeah.
Which I love.
The RIBA jury were also smitten. They noted the exquisite detailing, the strong and yet delicate design, and a love of concrete that derives from Jess's obsession with blocks. Before she took on the cafe, Jess was a conceptual artist. She'd been using blocks for years in her work.
So I was spending a lot of my time kind of playing with these blocks in different sort of forms, but a lot of them just kind of sat in my brain and maybe didn't really go anywhere, and now maybe this is kind of part of where they've gone. It was really interesting to work with concrete in its right context. I've always, I did a piece where I put sort of concrete blocks in a fridge, but here they're just actually a building, so it's quite straightforward.
Oh, so you've been able to get concrete blocks out of your system by finally building with them. Yeah, rather than using them as
now I
a
can finally
conceptual
move on.
material.
Jess hasn't been afraid to push creatively at this design. Rather than being inspired by the buildings on the street, she's inventively taken ideas from the street itself.
Tarmac. Wall. They look very similar, don't they? And that is because here they've specified a crushed, dark, small stone in the render, in a mix which, as far as I can see, is a standard Highways Department specification.
Radical road-like render would seem a surefire way to annoy the neighbours.
This is a very modern structure and literally opposite my front door. How would that be? When I found out it was going to be concrete, I sort of held my breath.
And the architect behind this design knew it would be a tough sell.
Like probably any project, some people were incredibly supportive, some people were very sceptical, occasionally openly hostile.
Had her neighbours objected to the plans, the project could have been derailed before it got off the ground. But never underestimate the power of a flat white and a top-notch sarnie.
Jess started setting up the cafe next door, and she ended up kind of growing this kind of community life around it.
That must have been very helpful for you, taking the project through planning.
Yeah, no, it was great. And it was great that she had very open communication with everybody in the neighbourhood, even those who were kind of hostile to the project.
Yeah.
Even though this monolith was about to be built, it was kind of done in a way that we felt comfortable with it because I kind of trusted her vision, because it was clearly she was a woman of taste.
She was here, so that made an enormous difference.
We actually ended up with no objections.
None.
Quite.
For a dark grey building that is uncompromisingly modernist.
Yeah. Obviously, if you do a massive building on a residential street, nothing's without a bit of conflict.
Yeah.
But we're all still friends. It's all okay.
The cocktail required to build this house consisted of creativity, bloody-mindedness, a measure of sweet, gentle charm, and some ice-cool determination, all of which seem present in the full-bodied character of the building.
It's beautiful. Not much of a view.
No, this is my secret outside space. In the summer, I sleep out here.
Seriously?
I sleep out here, and I'm totally private.
So you lie out here, you bring a mattress out, or what?
Yeah, I've got a little pad.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah. Just have a little...
I haven't set my alarm.
It's okay, because the sun will come up.
Jess can sleep soundly, knowing that she has shepherded to this place a bold new piece of architecture and brought the neighbours along too.
My honest opinion is I wish it was mine. I think it's beautiful. I think it really enhances the area.
Well, mostly.
I mean, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either, I'm sorry.
On a bleak February afternoon, it is a little bit gulag. And so I've named it Gulag Chic.
What a bold and beautiful building that is. The result of fertile minds working together, and that's the point. It's not a house which has come about through litigation or through pushing or aggression or, for that matter, appeasement. No, this is a building that's great thanks to a really rare process in construction, and that is creative collaboration.
There are 4 more long-listed houses to explore.
The banks of the River Thames are most emphatically not the place for architectural experiments of this nature.
Before we find out which of them are shortlisted for the RIBA House of the Year 2018.
The House of the Year crown, like a hard hat, has an adjustable rim to accommodate all comers, from mansions to maisonettes, who wish to try it on. But it is decreed that each year there will be only one house that fits it perfectly.
So what does it take to win the RIBA House of the Year? 2015's winner, the geological Flint House, seemed to rise from the very rock beneath, and yet within it was all crystalline delight.
Oh, Lord. It has its own grotto. That is a stroke of genius, that.
Richard Murphy's house in Edinburgh won in 2016, a fabulous Wallace and Gromit home of invention and eccentricity.
Prizes. Al fresco bathing.
Too much.
Then last year it was the turn of the wonky castle, Caring Wood, a modern Kentish manor house that looks to the future of multi-generational living.
I remember on my first visit, I thought it was humongous. We often walk around saying, "Where are you?" And someone was like, "I'm over here, look, where is that?"
3 very idiosyncratic winners, each one highly thoughtful, rooted in place, and very adventurous.
So, what makes a great classic piece of architecture? National treasures like St Paul's Cathedral, the Houses of Parliament, the National Gallery extension, they were all reviled as monstrous when they were built. So we need the bold risk-takers who laugh in the face of fear and bravely stick their heads above the trenches. They might need a tin helmet to be on the safe side.
Our next Dare to be Different house is in Henley-on-Thames, a place of pointy-roofed riverside Tudor-Beathan sobriety. So chocolate box perfect, they film Midsummer Murders here. And behind this rusty metal gate, Michelle Agundahin is here to see a house that caused some controversy on the riverbank. This is Pheasants. Concrete, rusty metal, modernist lines. Everything you wouldn't expect just a stone's throw from the banks of the River Thames. And its edgy owners are retired entrepreneurs Dick and Judith, who's also an artist.
There's a natural tendency for people to want to reprise what's already been successful, and a hesitancy to try anything new. Introducing something new, a new element, is really quite difficult.
After retiring, Dick and Judith decided to replace their 1950s bungalow with Pheasants, a home that the RIBA judges called an extraordinary challenge to convention.
Hello.
Hello, Michelle. Welcome to our home.
Quite a triumphal entrance to your home, isn't it?
The main house sits at the end of this sleek ornamental pond opposite a guest house and studio. You enter through a reception hall which opens into a large living and dining space with a ground floor kitchen and a master bedroom suite. Up the stairs are another 4 bedrooms with further stairs up onto the roof terrace.
Did you want to commission something controversial, though, or you just mean something new that wasn't necessarily the same as everything around it?
What we wanted to commission here was a country villa for the 21st century. We wanted to commission something that was
Worthy of the site.
worthy of the
actually.
site. We put in a planning application, and of course it was hit a maelstrom of objection from all kinds of people.
Because you were creating a monstrosity on their river.
An industrial estate, a World War II pillbox. So a lot of stuff like that, which was quite difficult to take.
Their original plans were amended, but the revised ones also drew objections. Despite this, the council granted planning permission.
Well, why do you think people got that sort of level of animosity towards the new?
When you say, why are you doing this, and the answer is because I can, you know there won't be much sensible debate about it. So what can you do?
We did dig our toes in, and it was a challenge which we rose to and met. Ended in the High Court, judge ruled in our favour, and then we were able to move on.
I am absolutely dying to see inside it then. I want to know if it was all worthwhile.
From the formal reception hall, you glide into a main living and dining area, with views to the formal pond one way and the river the other. Space flows here, from the kitchen to the ground floor master bedroom with ensuite. Everything you could need is on one floor.
We knew we were getting old, alas, and age has its problems, one of which is accessibility. The house has been designed with these very wide pivot doors and sliding doors, so if we do ever end up in wheelchairs, we can still move around and be fully active.
But there can't be many retirement homes fashioned from this much concrete.
The concrete, it doesn't weigh heavily on your head, but you're very aware of it.
So the beauty of the concrete is that it isn't cavernous and the whole thing is really quite cosy.
And it's to do with the colour, because it's very warm. We didn't want grey concrete.
They did extensive colour tests, sampling pigments and ingredients to perfection. Then every batch of concrete for the walls, benches, walkways and floors had to be matched. Alongside this, all the Corten steel elements were made to order and fitted, including this 7.8-ton cantilevered carport, which arrived in a single piece. It was all keenly observed by the locals.
I got lumbered with delivering the parish magazine, turning up here once a month, dropping the parish magazine off. The people in the village want to know what's going on, and I basically let them know there's a bit more rust on the steel, a bit more concrete gone in, another large piece of glass turned up, and it's all looking pretty different to everything else around here.
The neighbours did have time to adjust, though. All in all, it took 3 years to make the guest house, then another 4 years for the main house.
It was a long old project, what with the kind of legal battle to start off with, and then a 7-year build. Why did it take so long, do you feel?
It was the fault of the clients, constantly interfering. And I am a firm believer that there's got to be that discussion between the person who's designing it and the people who are going to be using it.
The architects on the other side of this creative tussle were Ivan Taha and Sarah Griffiths.
Dick and Judith actually preferred to stay living on the site while the construction was going on. So beyond just bringing mugs of tea and coffee to the contractors, they're on site more often than we are.
And so pleasurable, painful?
Oh, inevitably both.
Sarah recalls that Dick had a motto to get them through the project.
They wanted it right, not quick. And I think I heard that on many occasions.
The result is a house utterly suited to Dick and Judith, from, of and for them and their needs. There are upstairs bedrooms for when the grandchildren stay. Details are also personal. The leafy screens offer some respite from all those straight lines.
I know that you as an artist had a lot of involvement into its design, didn't you?
Yes, I'm afraid we asserted ourselves on this. We wanted something that kind of tied in with the garden, the natural lines, sort of an organic pattern. I worked out some designs. Bit of a labour of love, but we're really pleased.
It's very beautiful, and when the sun shines, you get a wonderful effect on
the patterns come in, and they also reflect on things like the bathroom walls are glass, so you get it reflected again.
The man of steel who helped make all this was Neil Fry.
Corten and concrete is quite brutalist, it's quite aggressive.
Judith's pretty leafy screen, it turned out, was fairly brutal for Neil to make.
A lot of the problem was the pattern, was making sure there was enough negative space between the patterns such that the panels were strong enough in themselves and that we didn't get buckling and bowing.
The panels were pre-rusted with salt water before they were allowed on site, because, as this building in Bilbao shows, the last thing you want on your clean laundered concrete is rusty skid marks. And Neil appears to have done his job. Pheasants appears unblemished. And the 14-year struggle hasn't tarnished Dick's sense of humour. He's collated some of the complaints about the various plans in the downstairs loo.
There's some classics here, aren't there? My favourite, I think, is probably this one. We truly believe that the banks of the River Thames are most emphatically not the place for architectural experiments of this nature.
How about that? What is really nice about having this building is that because it's riverside, it is seen by a lot of people, and it does set the tone for, I hope, a new generation of buildings along the Thames.
This is a project that's probably had more than its fair share of ups and downs, but now that the dust has settled and the legal bills have been paid, what we're left with is a house that doesn't fit into Henley, but shows it a way forward.
Still, 3 more great houses in our Dare to be Different category.
Started off life a little bit quirky and then we just built on that, I think.
I like that. It was always quirky.
Could one of these be the RIBA House of the Year 2018?
It all looks and feels very serene here.
It says here in the rule book that a house will have a number of bedrooms upstairs, kitchen, living room, dining room downstairs, more toilets than the total number of occupants, and somewhere here, a set of bifold doors. But what if that isn't enough? I mean, what if you want to do something different? What do you do with the rule book then?
For the next house in our Dare to be Different category, I'm in polite North London. Lots of straight-laced townhouses. And here's another one. Dartmouth Park house. Looks like all the rest.
Grey. Grey. Hello.
Hello.
Karen.
Oh, very good, yeah.
Colin, pleased to meet you. Thanks very much. What a place. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
The unpretentious grey boarded-up shopfront conceals a little paradise island, a tropical fern tree, warm wooded balconies, an exotic spiral staircase, and an unnatural amount of sunlight for a Victorian house.
This is great. Wow. Tall. There's no inkling outside that it's like this.
Its totally tropical owners are Karen, a music, property and travel entrepreneur, and her husband Colin, a computer programmer and part-time DJ. The house is set over 4 floors. In the basement is an office. On the ground floor there's a living and DJing room with a courtyard and guest room. On the first floor a kitchen, diner and veranda. And on the top floor 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, all linked by a wild and winding staircase. There had been an office on the ground floor and a flat upstairs, but they gutted the place and fitted it out with a new interior made of Nicaraguan mahogany.
Why Nicaragua? What was the contact that led you there?
I went on holiday to Nicaragua and bought an island, as you do, in a lake, and built a sustainable hotel on it. And when we were talking to the architects over here about using lots of wood, I thought it would be a really lovely idea to kind of bring some of that wood, which is very personal to me, obviously, over to here to use in the house.
This Rainforest Alliance certified wood was used in every stair tread, window frame, door frame and plank of decking. The RIBA judges admired the warm and consistent finish it gave in this unusual and exotic home. The wood was made to measure 5,000 miles away and then arrived in a shipping container, the flat pack of nightmares. But sections like these perfectly curved banisters arrived as straight lengths, and so John Stidworthy, a specialist joiner, was brought in with his high-tech wood-bending steam box.
The principle of this is that the water boils, the steam comes up the tube and disperses through the box. The timber is already in the box, cooking.
After an hour or so, the heat and moisture caused the wood fibres to soften enough for it to be bent with clamps. The method has been used to make everything from rowing boats to grand pianos since the ancient Egyptians.
Yeah, it's been pretty good.
The mahogany wasn't always so easy to work with, though.
It was the long curves that kept snapping and sending bits of mahogany all over the workshop.
Thankfully, the Nicaraguans had packed lots of spares, and John's patience and resilience has resulted in a set of beautifully crafted stairs that provide the backbone of this house and work a lot harder than your average set of steps.
What stairs do is connect floors in buildings. They allow people to use a townhouse like this efficiently. But here, the stairs are doing so much more. Here, the stairs allow light to pour down into the building. They allow the place to be visually open. You can communicate vertically in the place. And they are beautiful. Where are my keys? Can you, when you come down, can you bring my keys?
Once you're off the staircase, the house ignores the traditional approach to layout. The ground floor lounge morphs into Colin's DJ zone, which in turn becomes a palm tree in a courtyard, finishing in a guest room at the back. Heading up through the 9-metre-tall hallway, you arrive at the first floor, where instead of a pair of bedrooms, you have a kitchen diner with a view.
Just a really nice feeling, like just being able to sort of look out onto sort of loads of greenery. And
it to sort of suggest that more people should be sort of swapping stuff around a bit and put the kitchen up in the building, elevated.
It's a quirky space anyway. It started off life a little bit quirky and then we just built on that, I think.
I like that. It was always quirky.
yeah. Suits us.
Yeah.
The innovative design employs skylights to illuminate darkened corners like Colin's basement office, or on the veranda where the view is especially quirky.
It is always a thrill to stand on a glass roof, to be suspended, as it were, almost in mid-air. It is quite another thrill to be stood on a glass roof looking down into a bath. Not that there's anybody there.
The architects tasked with turning Colin and Karen's quirks into a livable home were Anthony Boulanger and Yoria Manolopoulou.
I think there's a charming and there's a romantic quality to the building. It's imbued with their loves and their passions and their backgrounds.
It's a piece of architecture that is half designed by us, and it is complemented by Karen and Colin.
It truly feels like it's a very personalised home for them.
Karen and Colin have thrown out the conventions of a London townhouse, creating an unusual upside-down tropical house that's also a very good party pad for their friends and neighbours.
It's a lovely place to hang out, but it's also very much a warm home, a very reflection of those two.
This place is not normal. This place is different. It's the next evolutionary step for the conventional, narrow, urban townhouse, where walls disappear in order to make way for big slabs of furniture or just for fresh air, and where staircases become sculptural. And the payoff for all of that, the benefit, is that these guys get a home which is absolutely chock full of light and delight and fun. Lamination, which is the process of gluing lots of thin strips of something together, is used a lot in construction. You can take materials which are naturally flimsy and wobbly, glue them together, and lo and behold, emerge with something rigid, hard and strong. Goodness me, there is power and strength in numbers.
Here in Newcastle upon Tyne, the next entry in our competition is definitely stronger because it's not one house but two stuck together, a half-submerged semi-detached called Urn Road. This stylish modern thing could have had the neighbours up in arms in a traditional suburban area like this, unless you were building with them. One side is owned by Tim, a furniture maker, and Pippa, a psychologist, while next door live Libby, an actor, and her son Fred.
So we've been neighbours for 24 years. We bought houses next door to each other. So over those years, a strong friendship has been forged.
The neighbours share one building, but have arranged their halves differently. In Tim and Pippa's house on the ground floor, there's a garage come workshop, utility and guest room. And on the first floor, 2 bedrooms and an open-plan living space. Next door in Libby's house on the ground floor there are 2 bedrooms, a garage and utility room, and like Tim and Pippa on the first floor there are 2 more bedrooms and an open-plan living space. Both houses are connected with a shared garden, very civilised. Building with your neighbour is, of course, incredibly brave.
Most people would run a mile from that kind of thing. You lived together up there, and now you live together down here.
We're very good friends. We enjoyed being neighbours for 24 years at the top. Wanted to continue to be neighbours. We were looking to downsize, and suddenly we realised that at the bottom of our garden, we had a building plot.
So we built it in the bottom of the garden.
If building in the backyard wasn't daring enough, their plot was on a hill. So having dug out 1,200 tons of soil, they built a wall to keep the earth back. The building set into a slope, so it could have felt dingy and dark, but Tim and Pippa's hallway doesn't feel like a burrow.
Oh, wow. I mean, this is just so fantastically light and bright in here.
Yes, that was the key part of the design, because obviously at the bottom of the hill and built into the hill, getting light was the concern.
This room is actually underground.
As well as the underground guest room, Tim has his workshop on this floor. This giant skylight and glass bridge above bring light down into this minimal hallway, in which the truly stick-out feature is the sculptural cantilevered staircase.
We're very, very proud of this. I think originally it was Pip's idea to have the chunky concrete steps which have been made by a friend of ours.
That friend was Russ Coleman, a concrete artist.
So in this is bits of sculptures from 25 years ago.
As well as steps, he also makes light shades and concrete vegetables.
It's akin to cooking, really. You can have a batter mix or a cake mix or a sponge mix.
Russ went for more of a super thick Christmas pudding mix with Tim and Pippa's stairs.
There's an addition of extra fibres and a bit of polymer to strengthen them.
The judges praised Oosburn as a testament to the passion of both architects and clients, and an exemplar for contemporary living. Nowhere better seen than on the magnificent open-plan first-floor living room, gloriously secluded, yet connected to its setting.
We spent extra money on this glazing. It was very important for us that there was as little intrusion into that wonderful view as possible. So all the framework is recessed in the ceiling and the walls in the floor, and you just have these very fine dividers.
And it all looks and feels very serene here now, but I imagine this was a project that was not without its challenges.
You can see the hillside, the amount of earth that had to be excavated to clear the site. It was a huge engineering project, actually. I mean, one of the problems we faced was that underneath here is a whole load of tunnels and
empty spaces.
It was described to me, the land that you're trying to build on is a bit like a packet of cornflakes.
There were 14th century abandoned drift mines underneath, a rabbit warren of tunnels originally dug for coal that had to be stabilised by filling with tons of poured concrete before the masonry structure for the houses could be put up. It cost £300,000 to build each house. Tim and Pippa stayed in their old house during construction, but Libby had to sell hers quickly to fund the project.
I lived with friends for a year. I did come down and check out what was happening. It was a very big haul for a long time. Nothing was happening quick enough.
There was no turning back for you. You've
None.
sold your house and moved out.
Exactly.
So you were really probably watching your money just disappear into those foundations.
Just took forever.
Now finished, the end result is as far removed from a hole in the ground as you could possibly imagine. Tim, Pippa and Libby aren't the only ones daring to be different by building at the ends of their gardens. Their architects built their own house round the corner and hope that Libby, Tim and Pippa can inspire others to do the same.
In the 1800s, this little quiet cul-de-sac was a major thoroughfare up until the days when they blocked it off. We're all very keen to populate this little back street. Tim, Pippa and Libby bring a bit of activity to the lane down here.
Already, Tim, Libby and Pippa's brave architecture is starting to inspire others locally.
We are looking at getting an extension, and it will be in a similar style, quite an industrial, modern look.
Building a house with your neighbours, I guess it's something worth considering.
I didn't see too many arguments. It sits very well on the slope of the hill, it blends in nicely and looks great.
While many of us might try and separate ourselves from our neighbours, these guys did quite the opposite. They came together, pooling their resources to build 2 beautiful and bespoke homes.
One bold and bright, daring house yet to see.
Some of the neighbours, it became known as the bloody red house.
Before we find out which homes have made it to the shortlist of 2018's RIBA House of the Year.
All it took was for Clark Kent to put on a pair of glasses and nobody knew he was Superman. So what do you do if you're trying to smuggle in a superpowered house amongst the good people of Metropolis? It's going to take more than a disguise from the joke shop, isn't it? Especially when the house is wearing a big red superhero suit.
London, where it seems every other street is made of the same London stock brick. Nice, neat, uniform and yellow. Maybe with a risque bit of red detailing. Until this cheeky little rebel turned up. Red House, an end of terrace with sunburn. Stephen Davis and Will Burgess are behind this project. And Damien Burrows has gone to meet them at... what's it called again?
Hey, guys.
Hi. Some of the neighbours, it became known as the bloody red house. And I think it's because they were builders' vans. You know, we share lots of boundaries with lots of neighbours. And we just sort of... it just stuck.
Red House has been built on the site of an old garage. You enter and step down to a sunken ground floor, which leads to a living area, kitchen, 2 courtyards and a TV room. Then upstairs are 2 bedrooms on the first floor and a master bedroom with ensuite on the second. And now the skips have gone, it sits happily at the end of this terrace, thanks in part to sympathetic details that the RIBA jury thought were bold and assertive without being disrespectful.
As a piece of architecture in a house, it feels very settled. It kind of has the feeling like it's always been here.
We certainly hope that it feels natural and not forced.
I think we want our buildings to feel like they're part of their surroundings, that they haven't imposed their will on the street or their setting.
Inside, they've dug down the ground floor by over 1 metre, maintaining a low profile, while also spreading out to fill the whole plot to make the ground floor much larger than it appears from the street.
Ah, this is interesting to come straight in on the stairs.
It means we managed to get 3 floors in the space of 2 of our neighbours, so we got effectively a larger house.
Great spatial tricks continue. The ground floor is a series of loosely aligned, wide, slightly weirdly angled rooms, a world away from the dark and narrow spaces you'd expect of a Victorian terrace.
Wow. I mean, this is a beautiful collection of just little interconnected spaces. This is clever stuff.
And what we did was sort of push all the spaces to the edges, and you end up with these kind of courtyards, which make it incredibly private, so we're not overlooked.
Kitchen, lounge, diner, snug. All these familiar spaces are here, but arranged around courtyards in a way that refreshes your idea of what a terraced house can be. Red House was commissioned by a developer as a one-off, and it was bought a year ago by Daisy, a dancer, and her husband Sean, a chief technology officer. But it's not just the more open spaces that caught their attention.
This is one of my favourite bits of the house. We've got a little hidden door. Guests, they go, where's the downstairs toilet? Have you got a downstairs toilet? And I just say, yes, just push this wall. And
oh, nice.
There we go.
Nice.
It's really, obviously, functional, really useful to have a downstairs toilet, but you almost don't want it to you don't want to see it too much, so it's, yeah, perfect.
You haven't found a guest here hopping from foot to foot saying, where is it?
Not yet.
Upstairs, the spaces are more conventional, with office, bedroom and bathroom on the first floor and a master bedroom suite on the second. But the stairs that lead you there are anything but.
Typical Victorian house would only allow itself a little bit of detail and interest, usually in the ceilings and the staircase. Is this a little bit of a nod to that detail?
Yeah, I think it is. I think looking at that craftsmanship and how we can bring that into this kind of staircase was, it was an important part of the design.
The curve of the landing is reflected in the arch of the window, part of a single concrete panel that was made off-site. It takes inspiration from the Victorian details of its neighbours.
First impressions matter, which is why outside many Victorian houses you'll find these beautiful tiled pathways. Now, Red House takes that pattern, abstracts it, and blows it up into this epic monolithic slab of concrete.
The man behind this one-of-a-kind creation was Martin Pinion. The team spent weeks experimenting with dyes to colour match the red bricks. Then a wooden version was made, which was then used as the model for a rubber mould.
You can see the complexity of the shape the architect was looking for. You can see that reflected in the mould. Complex part of it is actually is in the demoulding. That's the part that can either make it or break it. But even though there's very, very tiny fragments of concrete, they all came off with perfectly intact. I think several people said it couldn't be done. I think it has paid off. Yeah, it does look spectacular.
But craftsmanship comes at a price, about £15,000 with installation.
So it's like buying quite a small family car and hanging it on your front facade and think, yes, I have just spent that much on this one component of this one house. It's become the motif of the house, I suppose, so it was worth investing in.
It's a credit to the property developer that they were prepared to invest in a one-off like Red House, but spending still had to be kept within sensible limits.
So with a house like this, what sort of budget are you looking at?
Well, the end figure was under £500,000 for the construction of the property.
To build a house like this, £500,000 with this sort of spatial configuration, seems like a bit of a steal to me. Red House fuses together the familiarity of Victorian architecture with the boldness of modernism. It links arms with its neighbours whilst quietly asserting itself. And I think it does this with a playfulness that's absolutely captivating.
5 very different houses with distinct personalities, but which will the jury think has the edge that could get them onto the shortlist for the 2018 RIBA House of the Year?
Blackstone House, a monolithic slab that rejects conformity ever so politely. Pheasants, that shows that a riverside home doesn't have to be watered down. Dartmouth Park, Nicaragua meets North London in a spiralling reinvention of the townhouse. Urn Road, a triumph of semi-attached teamwork. And Red House, a modern marvel of layout in a bright red onesie.
So which have the jury picked to go through to the shortlist for the RIBA 2018 House of the Year?
Niall Maxwell, one of last year's winners and a member of the jury, has come to reveal all.
So what have you shortlisted?
We've shortlisted Pheasants. The reason this was shortlisted was because it's an incredibly ambitious project. It works on 2 levels, the grandeur and the simplicity of home. I really enjoyed actually the way in which the landscape was used to bring these 2 buildings together. It's a very clever set of spaces that we enjoyed, but also the way in which that building sits up above the garden.
Thank you very much. That's good to know.
Good news.
Congratulations.
Well, congratulations to us all.
Certainly very delighted for Dick and Judith.
It's just a lovely place to live in. It works extraordinarily well, and we're very happy.
With Pheasants through to the shortlist, there's space for one more from this daring group of buildings.
So Niall, what have you shortlisted?
We've shortlisted Red House.
So why have you shortlisted Red House?
It is a brilliant example of how to use a small infill site in a city and create some transformative architecture. But at the same time, it's not feeling out of place because it looks like it's bookending the terrace.
You live here?
I definitely live here. It's a really clever house. It's really well executed.
And great for one of the architects, Steve, who made the long list last year with his own house, number 49.
I think that's great. I mean, that's
cool.
Brilliant.
And it means we beat Steve's house that only got longlisted last year. So that's more important. Red House is better than number 49.
It's subjective.
So we're off with Red House and Pheasants, our first 2 on the shortlist. But 5 more must join them before we find out at the end of the series which has won House of the Year 2018.
All good and virtuous buildings respond to where they are, but the really special ones don't just hold up a mirror and mindlessly ape their surroundings. They reverberate to the spirit of a place. In the dialogue between place and architecture, they dare to push the conversation on in ways that can surprise, delight, and occasionally shock. As the late great playwright Neil Simon once said, if no one ever took risks, Michelangelo would have ended up painting the Sistine floor.
Next time, we'll be looking at houses with a past.
I like the crack in the wall.
That's intentional. We thought about that for a while and decided not to spend any money doing anything on that.
5 more breathtaking projects, all with a story to tell.
It was a storm away from complete loss.